Good evening. Welcome to Children First, and this is a collaborative program by Children, Television Cable Access Network and Maryville Academy about children. And I'm delighted this evening our guest is Sarah Pope. Sarah, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Sarah, we are pleased to say, works with us at Maryville Academy with our children, and I think you're going to be impressed, first of all, with Sarah's background, and then some of the work that she's doing with our children. So Sarah, first tell us, will you please, where did you go to school?
I did my undergrad at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I obtained a bachelor's degree in psychology there. And then directly after graduation from Madison, I went to Northwestern for a counseling psychology degree master's program.
And what did you think you were going to do with these degrees?
You know, I really wasn't sure when I entered Northwestern what I was going to do as far as what population I wanted to work with. In fact, I kind of thought I wanted to work with adults. And when I ended up graduating from Northwestern, I was really looking for a job working with adults, and then it just happened that one of my relatives worked at Maryville and said, you know, you should try it out here. We have an opening. And I went and I applied. I got the job, and I ended up loving it, working with kids. I realized is really what I was meant to do. So.
And when did you start at Maryville?
In August of 2002. I just came up on my 9-year anniversary at the end of the month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Sarah has quite a bit of experience before she even moved to the current program we're going to talk about tonight, the St. George program for boys. So, Sarah, which program did you begin with?
I started a program that we no longer have called the Juvenile Justice Program. It was located in the Scott Nolan Center. And that program, we work primarily with kids who are very heavily involved in the juvenile justice system, multiple arrests, on probation for various offenses. And then they come to us for residential treatment, for rehabilitation.
And the Scott Nolan Center does exist still. That's our hospital in Des Plaines, Illinois. This particular program was funded for a few years, and then, as often happens, the funding was no longer.
Right.
So we were able to serve the children for a period of time.
Right. We were 100% funded through the courts, and then they lost funding, so that program no longer was able to be around. But it was a very good program while I was there.
And then which program did you work in?
After that period of time, which was about a year, I went and worked at the acute hospital in the Nolan Center as well, working with kids in psychiatric crisis, all the way from 4 years old up until 22.
And perhaps this is a good time just to tell our viewers, in case you haven't seen it on one of our other programs, Maryville Academy serves children in outreach programs and also in shelter and transition programs, also in residential programs for children who can't live safely at home for some reason, and then also the most intense care we have a psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents and young adults, and that's our Maryville Scott Nolan Hospital. So Sarah had experience in a residential program, and then she moved to our hospital. And then where did you move?
So after about 3 years in the hospital, I really enjoyed working there, but I was ready to get back into working with kids more long term, because in the hospital you usually only see them for maybe 5 days to 2 weeks, sometimes longer. So I had the opportunity to transition to what was then the MESA program, and that was also located in the Scott Nolan Center at that point, was working with dually diagnosed adolescent boys with mental illness and substance abuse issues.
And so the MESA program, our program for these young men, and our hospital, our Maryville Scott Nolan Center, are located at the MESA program was located, and the hospital still is located, at 555 Wilson Avenue in Des Plaines, Illinois. And you worked with our MESA program almost until in this last year with funding cuts.
Right.
We had to close the MESA program. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, DASA had all sorts of cuts last year. I worked in MESA for, maybe 4 or 5 years with those boys. And, it was a really rewarding experience. We worked with those kids for about 6 months on average. It was pretty intensive residential, and then the goal was for them to return home for their families once they completed pretty intensive substance abuse treatment.
And then we brought you to our St. George program,
Correct,
right?
which is where I am now.
Now, before I get you to the St. George program, let me just let you reflect for a moment on these other programs you were involved in. You were involved in a substance abuse treatment program that was residential at our hospital, in our juvenile justice program. What do you think you learned in those programs that you were able to bring to the St. George program?
Well, definitely in working at the acute hospital, you're able to work with such a wide range of different kids, with different problems, different diagnoses, a wide range of ages, socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural differences. So it's just great exposure to being able to work with all different types of kids at different levels of acuity too. I was able to really get a lot of training in diagnostic skills, working in crisis, and then in the residential at MISA and JJP, just really learning about residential itself, because you don't really learn about the ins and outs of residential in your schooling. You really have to do it to get a good grasp of what it means and how important it is to provide structure and predictability for our kids, because they usually don't come from any.
And so that's very important for our children to have a sense of the structure and what's going to happen next. Let me just ask or mention and then ask you about this. We have our early intervention programs in the city of Chicago, our crisis nursery, our children's health care center. We have our shelter for young teenage girls in Chicago, our Madden Center. And then when we work our way out to Bartlett, I'm going to jump to Bartlett, Illinois for a moment. We have a campus that serves girls in 2 programs, and our boys campus is in Des Plaines, which is where you are now.
Right.
And the hospital that you were just describing, the Maryville Academy Scott Nolan Psychiatric Hospital, how old are the children served at the hospital?
The hospital has several different programs, so we can reach a wide range of ages. There's I believe when I was there, and I believe it's still there, there's a children's program which can start as young as, I think the youngest we might have seen there was 5 years old to all the way to 12. Right. And then the adolescent program, and it is split up into boys program, girls program for adolescents. Those are in different units, which is 13 to 17. Once kids turn 18, the nice thing about our hospital is a lot of child and adolescent hospitals do not have young adult programs, and Maryville does. So if a child, even I've seen a child who entered the hospital at 17 and just so happens their birthday happened at 18, and then they would move over to the young adult program, which is 18 to 22-year-olds. And that's a special program just for kids in that age range, because they're at a different stage developmentally, and so we program them a little differently.
And that's an important part of the different types of programs I was just listing and that Sarah was talking about. Now I'm going to invite Sarah to talk about her program right now, the St. George program.
Yeah, I've been all over the place, haven't I?
Well, you've had great experience, which I think really shows in the wonderful leadership you give our program. So the St. George program, Sarah, who are the young persons who are benefiting from this program?
Well, at St. George, we currently have 3 homes, and they're all adolescent boys ranging from ages 13 all the way up to 21. They're all duly diagnosed with some sort of mental illness and intellectual disability. That can range, though. We have a wide range of levels of cognitive abilities in those homes, and each of the homes are pretty specialized to deal with the varying degrees of capabilities that the boys have. It's residential in that they are there for time-limited amount of time, and then we want to move them on to a less restrictive environment, less structured environment, and we wrap them with a lot of treatment, a lot of individual therapy, group therapy. They see their psychiatrist once a month. And then it's pretty self-contained, because the campus that, we're very lucky to have a lot of resources on campus, and then they go to school at the Gen School, which is the Maryville School at main campus, which is a stone's throw away from the St. George program. And we're with them all the time. We bring them on activities, we bring them on home passes to see their family, and we just try to get them to the point where they can somehow maintain a healthy lifestyle at a different environment, one that's not as treatment heavy.
And so our young men who are in the program, you mentioned that in addition to the mental health diagnosis, they also have intellectual disabilities. Right. What is the IQ ceiling, if you will, for our program?
Anything lower than 70, because 70 and above would be considered, 70 is on the low average end, but below 70. Although there are some exceptions that we would make. Like right now we had a referral for a young man who had a 72 IQ, and you would think that we would automatically deflect that child. However, what's considered their adaptive functioning was at a lower point that we would still consider taking him to the program, because even though the IQ measured 72, his adaptive functioning scores were much lower than that. So he kind of needs help with his daily living skills, and his social skills are so low that he would be appropriate for a program like ours.
And that's what you mean by adaptive?
Yeah, adaptive functioning.
Okay. And you mentioned that our our boys on the Des Plaines campus, who, by the way, are my neighbors, I live right around the corner from them, that our young boys on the Des Plaines campus are attending our therapeutic day school, the Maryville Gen School.
Correct.
And so you could say a little bit about the school. And the school serves more than just our boys in the St. George program. We also serve other young men from Maryville and community students. But for our young lads who are in your program.
Right. I would say almost 100% of our boys do attend the Gen School. They get specialized services there, that they're smaller classrooms. They're in classrooms that are geared towards where they're at cognitively. And they're also set up with counselors there, because our boys do also suffer from some sort of mental illness. So there's someone on site there that they can see for counseling. And there's smaller classrooms. And then we're able to really work with them as far as they can assist us and we can assist them if we need extra support.
Okay. So I know that our young men, in addition to being in their classrooms, which I get to visit, go on field trips.
Correct.
As part of the...
They go on a lot of fun field trips.
And so that's an opportunity for them to have some interactive learning. And I would like to ask you more about the program, but first I think we have a caller.
Okay.
So let me invite the caller.
Yes, thank you very, very much for taking my call. This has always been puzzling to me. When I hear the two letters IQ, naturally it means intelligent quotient. However, what constitutes a high IQ? Is it strictly genetic? I'm going to get out the line so that you can possibly answer my question the best you can. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Well, that's
Sure.
a really good question, because one of the programs that we have, there's a couple of different ways of looking at mental retardation, which is still considered MR. One of which is organically
Now spoken of as intellectual disabilities.
right, but there's still can be diagnosed in the DSM as MR, but we consider it intellectual disabilities. But when you have an IQ that's lower than 70, sometimes that happens not because you were born with any organic issues as far as mental capacity. Sometimes that's due to academic deficits or trauma that you've experienced in your life somehow, where you haven't been able to retain knowledge the same way that someone who didn't have academic deficits or didn't have trauma would. So there's kids like that, which we have a program for. There's a lot of kids who probably wouldn't test into that realm if it weren't for their life circumstances. And then you have some kids where we have a program more for these kids where there's some sort of organic reason behind why they're testing into this issue, whether it be fetal alcohol syndrome or just genetically predisposed to that. So there's a couple different reasons why someone could test into that realm, and it could be environmental, it could be genetic.
And at the point that a young person is referred to our St. George program, we are receiving the results of a test that was conducted by someone.
Correct.
Before
They come
came
in
to
with
us.
testing, and to find out IQ testing, that there's pretty extensive psychological tests that go in, whether it be the WAIS or the WISC. So these kids have been tested prior to coming to us.
And to the caller's question, an excellent question, if some of our young persons, our young boys who are in the program, come in with a certain test score that qualifies them for the St. George program, and then and it's due to environmental factors, as it turns out, when they participate in the program and the schooling on a regular basis, does it not seem that sometimes their IQ
that
test
has
scores come
happened. Sometimes kids will be in our program, they'll enter in our program at like a 66, and then after with treatment, a 66 full scale IQ, which would be considered mild MR. They're in treatment, they're in a stable environment, they're going to school, and then all of a sudden you'll see their IQ might jump 10 points, which would never happen to someone who is really organically diagnosed in that category. So that's a good point. And sometimes those kids will test out of the program, and we'll have to find them a new, if they still need a placement somewhere that is more appropriate, because we program our kids at a certain way and if you're testing out of that category, you might need a program that can teach them in a different type of way.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so if our children are succeeding, we're very happy.
Right.
And we'll help either try to change our program if it fits our program, or invite that the children go to a different agency that has a program more appropriate now that they have the different score.
Right.
And so I think another piece of the activities of our young men that our viewers would be interested in is their organic garden.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say a little bit about that?
Sure. The Gen School is, it really put that together, and it's a great opportunity for the boys because they're able to really get creative and see something that they're actually producing, and they're planting seeds and they're growing vegetables, and then there's many benefits from it because then they're also learning how to interact with the public when they sell the vegetables at the farm stand on campus, and they're learning math skills by figuring out how much change to give and that sort of thing. So they really enjoy it, and the people on campus who come to get the vegetables enjoy it too.
And Maryville is grateful for its partnership with the University of Illinois in Chicago, which worked with our Maryville Gen School and our young lads from the St. George program for this opportunity for the organic garden. And I confess, a few times when I've gotten to test the vegetables, it's nothing like those fresh vegetables that they grow. So that's wonderful. Now, also, I think our viewers would be interested to know, Sarah, that while we're providing homes for the boys during the time that they're in the program, we want to help them establish or strengthen their healthy ties with their families.
Absolutely. That is a big focus of mine that I've tried to emphasize when I came over as director of the program. I think a lot of times people get a very narrow view of how you define family, and just because a child doesn't have a mother or a biological father in the picture, that's not the only family that they might have, and you have to broaden your version and definition of what family means and try to tie in people from their lives on the outside, whoever that might be, whether it was a neighbor who took a special interest in their life, and because we can't be everything for them, they really need those outside resources so they don't become overly dependent on us. We want them to be able to depend on us but not become overly dependent, and so really drawing those resources that they have, whoever that might be, into their life. And we do that by doing things like family therapy, helping transport family members or family friends to the home, whether that be driving to the city to go get them because they can't use public transportation, or picking them up at the L stop. We really try to support that.
And recently, you celebrated a Family and Friends Day with the boys. Would you like to tell our viewers about that?
This is an annual event that happens every summer, and the boys really look forward to it. Every summer we throw a big barbecue with a DJ and all sorts of food, entertainment, games, and prizes, and the boys all invite their family members and their if they have a caseworker or a GAL or whoever, they can invite them. And here's a picture actually of one of our kids playing softball at the Family and Friends party with one of our dedicated staff. And it's just a good time for them to kind of share the campus and introduce them to the people that spend a lot of time with them.
And young lad in the picture, we try to be careful not to show faces for their privacy, but the young lad in this picture, if I show you one more time, is one of my friends who carries around my phone number. He doesn't call me very often, but he carries around my phone number, and every time I see him, he reminds me, I've got your phone number. So that's one of our little bonds about it. But there he's playing baseball successfully, right, sir? And at this Family and Friends event, I know that the families have the opportunity to come and visit and together. Do you find that it also strengthens the work with the families and the children and the staff together, improves the working relationship?
Absolutely. It kind of makes us all look like one team, that we're all there for this one child. We're all working in the same goal, and that we're not just a bunch of separate people in their lives, that we do want to come together to help foster future success for the kids.
And these are wonderful young men who are who come into our program at the different ages of adolescence or as young adults. We try to recognize them each year also at the end of the school year. They go to school the regular term plus some summer classes, but our getting ready for school, as we just did a couple weeks ago, we had a back to school rally with our young men and young ladies from the different campuses. And at the end of the school year, we have our awards banquet, which looks an awful lot like a picnic. Would you tell us about that?
Sure. Every award ceremony, the kids are recognized for the different accomplishments they've made over that time period, whether it been a social accomplishment, like being a very positive role model or peer, or if it's an academic accomplishment, like improving your math score by 50% or whatever it may be. And just really, we can tell them all the time how much good work they're doing, but it kind of just makes it more real for them when they're being recognized in front of a large group of people. And they really do have a good time at that as well.
And every single young person comes up to the stage and
everyone
in front of
gets
the peers
something.
and is recognized for some accomplishment.
That's right.
Some of them run to the stage
Yes, they do.
when they realize they're getting their award or trophy. But it's an exciting time.
Right.
And what would be one other example of an award?
Oh, I would say something along the lines of friendliest or most likely to, help another person out. And then, of course, all the academic awards that go with that.
Honor roll, graduation.
Perfect attendance, because sometimes that can be a struggle, making sure that the kids agree to go to school every single day. And you have to recognize the people who are valuing education, going every single day. So we have perfect attendance awards.
And then sports.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. We definitely have a really strong sports program at the Gen School and on Maryville campus, and they have recognition for leadership and sportsmanship and improvement in the sports as well.
Basketball.
We have basketball, softball, golf.
Yes, popular games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've just told us, Sarah, some of the wonderful activities and even aspirations of some of our young people through the stories you've been telling. Would you share with our viewers a bit of the challenge that our young men face?
Sure. A lot of them come in with challenges because of the circumstances they've had in their life. A lot of the kids that we help have abuse histories.
They've been victims of abuse.
Victims of some sort of social or mental abuse or physical abuse. Sometimes we have kids who've been sexually abused, and we're really just trying to help them work through some of these issues. Not to mention, a lot of them, all of our kids have cognitive delays, so they can't always put the language to what they're going through, and so it's very hard for them to express, what was going inside me right now. So we try to help give them that language too, to really talk about, or not even verbalize, but show us in other ways how they're feeling and how we help them cope with those things, because a lot of our kids never learn proper coping skills. And so that's a big struggle with the boys that we work with, is we all have to show so much patience because they require a lot of repetition. They're not processing at the same speed you and I are, and so sometimes we get frustrated and thinking, are they not learning? It's not that they're not trying to learn, it's that they just do it at a slower pace.
And what's our goal for the boys?
Our goal is to kind of raise the threshold that they came to us at, not bring them back to where they used to be, but even raise it higher than where they came into us, so that they can go on to a brighter future. And what that might look like, some instances of that is something called a SILA, which is a community integrated living arrangement. It's kind of like, it can look like a group home for adults, but there's more freedom involved. There's more independence. Or a transitional living program, a TLP, where they're learning even more independent living skills, so that the boys are going on and holding down jobs, having a routine, and having their own, kind of money, doing what they will with that, and not having so much supervision around them, so that they can live more of an independent lifestyle. Some of our boys will never be able to have a fully independent lifestyle. A lot of them won't, but they can get closer to it.
And actually, some of them, most of the boys in St. George also have jobs right on the campus right now, don't they? In learning.
Yeah, a lot of them do, and it's called the INVEST program. After school, they'll be doing things like stocking up the vending machines or recycling paper. What else do they help cleaning around the administrative offices? In that way, it's nice because they get to interact with other people who work in Maryville as well.
And then they can earn their way to jobs off campus, actually, as some of them do at a hotel.
Some of them did. Lutheran General Hospital, hotels, they've all been able to work there as well.
Well, Sarah, I want to thank you, and I want to thank our viewers for this evening. I hope that you took hope, as I do, of the wonderful young men who are in our St. George program at Maryville Academy. Some of their achievements, some of their aspirations, certainly the hope that they will be able to have happy and productive lives in which they give back to the community. Thank you and good evening.